Are you a crocheter who likes the look of knitting but would rather stick with crochet? Perhaps like me, you've struggled to learn how to knit, and then once you got the hang of it, discovered you just didn't really care for it and would prefer to crochet. If that's you, I've got 4 crochet stitches that mimic knitting. So grab your crochet hook and let's make some faux knit fabrics. The first method is the simplest, and all we need is chains and slip stitches. So after putting a slip knot onto my hook, I will make a chain that is the length I want my project to be. I chained 8 because I want my project to be 8 stitches long. Then I will chain 1 as my turning chain, and all I will need to do is work in the back loop of each chain stitch, and I'll work slip stitches. So I'll skip this stitch that's right next to the hook, go to the second one, and I'll insert in the back loop and work a slip stitch by yarning over and pulling through everything on my hook. So that's 1, go to the next stitch, insert, work a slip stitch. That's 2, this is 3, and I'll do it all the way down. That's row 1. Now rows 2 forward will be the same exact thing over and over. We start by chaining 1, then we turn our work, and we're going to go to our first stitch and work in the back loop. So this right here, this V, that's our chain 1. So if we go to this next V right here, we have 2 strands that make the V. One that's close to us called the front loop, and one that's far away from us called the back loop. I'm going to work my slip stitch by inserting under just the back loop with my hook, and then yarn over and pull through everything to work that slip stitch. Go to my next stitch, insert under just the back loop, work a slip stitch. Insert under the back loop, yarn over, pull through everything to slip stitch, and I'll do that in all 8 stitches going down the row. This is how it looks after row 2. Might not look like much yet, but if I repeat that row 2 a bunch more times, we will get something that looks like this. Now, our rows are working left and right, whereas knit, the stitch looks vertical. And also, if you notice it's a little narrow as I get to the top, that's not because of the stitch, that's just because of my tension. It's a little different when I'm filming on camera versus off camera. But we get this really nice stretchy fabric. It has this knit stitch look on both sides. I really like this one because it just uses a slip stitch and the same row repeats over and over, so it's pretty easy to remember what you're doing. The second way we're going to create a knit look with crochet stitches is to use half double crochet. Once more, I want to make my little sample swatch 8 stitches wide, so I've started by chaining 8. Now I'm going to chain 1. That will count as my turning chain, and I'm going to work half double crochet across. So skip the first chain from the hook, and then in the next chain we'll work a half double crochet, so yarn over, insert into that second stitch from the hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. That's a half double crochet. I'm going to put 8 of these into my foundation chain, and then I'll show you what we do for the repeating row. I've worked my 8 half double crochet. Now row 2 is going to be the row that we repeat for the rest of the project. We will start by chaining 1 as our turning chain, and then turn over our work, and we're going to work 8 half double crochet, but we're going to work in a very particular spot. We're not going to work in the top V of the stitch. We're instead going to work on this loop that's on the back of the stitch, or it's facing us right now because we turned our work. We start by yarning over to get ready for our half double crochet. This right here is the stitch we want to work in, but we're not going to work under that top V. Instead, we're going to look at the top V and then go down and find this strand that runs horizontal. And I'm going to insert my hook underneath that strand, kind of going bottom up to the top. So keeping my hook on the front side of the project, just going under that strand. And now we will complete the half double crochet by yarning over, pulling up a loop, then yarning over and pulling through all 3. I'll show you that again. So we yarn over, go to our next stitch, which is right here. This is the V at the top of the stitch. We're not going under there. We're going to instead find the horizontal strand just below the top of the stitch. We're going to insert underneath that from right to left, kind of bottom up, like so. Then we will yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. I'll show you 2 more times. We yarn over, go to the next stitch, find this horizontal strand down here, insert underneath that, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on the hook. And one more time, yarn over and work a half double crochet in that strand that's on the side of the stitch, not the top. Now I've worked my 8 half double crochet across for row 2, and at this point you might be thinking, wow, that looks kind of lame. You're not wrong for thinking that. This side doesn't show it, but when we go to the other side, we're going to start to see this knit stitch look appearing. And with this stitch, the magic of the knit look is compounded after we work more rows. So after just 1 or 2 rows, it's not going to look that great, but stick with it and you'll end up getting something that looks like this. Now this looks more like knit ribbing with large spaces between it. This hat here I have a video tutorial for, and we use this technique. The top part of the hat is worked the same way that I showed in this video, and you can see that really nice rib texture. And then for the brim, I followed the same method, but I worked it in the round. And if you work this half double crochet knit-like stitch in the round, it really gives a tight, close knit look. The third method is very similar to the first method, but it's got a little bit of a twist and it makes for a bouncier and bulkier knit look. We're going to start the exact same way we started method 1. So in my case, I chained 8 because I want that many stitches wide. Then I chained 1 as a turning chain, and then I slip stitched across in the back loops of the 8 chains. Now I'll show you rows 2 and 3, and rows 2 and 3 are what we'll repeat. So this pattern has a pair of repeating rows. So for row 2, we will start by chaining 1, that's our turning chain, and then we're going to turn our work. As before, we're going to work in just the back loops of the stitches. However, this time we're not going to do a row of slip stitches, we're going to do a row of slip stitches with an extra loop. Here's what I mean. We're going to yarn over before we work the slip stitch. So to do this, we yarn over. Then I will find my first stitch, so this right here is the turning chain. This is the top of my first stitch. I'm going to insert under just the back loop, so the strand further away from me. And now I'm going to slip stitch, so I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops that are on my hook. So I'm going to pull the loop through the stitch in my project, and then I'm going to pull that same loop through the 2 strands on my hook. That kind of middle one there, it can be easy to split, so just take your time with it. Let me show you that again. We start by yarning over, and then we will do our slip stitch working in just the back loop. So this is my next stitch here. I'm going to insert underneath just that back loop, and then I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on my hook. So I find it easiest if I get it through that one first, and then kind of hold down here at the base and pull it through these last 2, and I have to kind of twist it a little bit so I don't snag the yarn. But that's my second one. I'm going to repeat this in every stitch down the row. So yarn over, insert into the back loop only of the next stitch, yarn over and pull through everything that is on my hook. One more time, yarn over, insert under the back loop only, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on my hook. That's how we work the first row of our repeat. Now for the second row of our repeat, this is going to be something you've seen before. It's the same repeat we did from our first method. So to do so, we start by chaining 1 for our turning chain, turn my work, and now in every stitch across, I'm going to work a normal, regular old slip stitch in the back loops only. So this is my turning chain, this is my first stitch. I will insert my hook under the back loop only of that first stitch, yarn over and pull through everything on the hook to form a slip stitch. Go to my next stitch, insert under the back loop only, yarn over, pull through everything on my hook for a slip stitch. And I will repeat that all the way to the end of the row. Right now it might not look like much, but don't worry. Now that we know the 2-row repeating pattern, I'm going to repeat those 2 rows over and over until I end up with something that looks like this. From the back side, we have more of a ribbed knit look. And from the front side, we have these nice chunky knit V stitches. Last of all, our 4th way to crochet a stitch that looks like knitting is the Tunisian knit stitch. I've got a video that explains Tunisian crochet in more depth. I'll give you a really quick crash course, but I would still recommend checking out those other videos. Hopefully this just whets your appetite. Again, I want 8 stitches, so I have chained 8. I'm going to skip the first chain from my hook. In the second one, I will insert, yarn over, and pull up a loop. and I'm going to leave those 2 loops on my hook. Go to my next chain, insert yarn over, pull up a loop, leave those 3 on my hook, and I'm going to go down and pull up a loop in every chain until I have 8 loops on my hook. This right here is why you want a hook with a longer shaft for Tunisian crochet. That's called the forward pass in Tunisian crochet. The return pass, we start by yarning over and pulling through 1 loop. And then for the rest of the way across, we will yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Do that again, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and this is called the return pass, and this is where we work the stitches off of our hook. So that right there, that forward and return pass, that's the setup row. Let me show you how we work that knit stitch. Each of these vertical bars along here, those are stitches from row 1. When we work row 2, we want to insert through the stitches a certain way to create the V shape. This first loop counts as my first stitch, which goes here. Now I'll come to my second stitch of the previous row, and I'm going to insert kind of to the right of it and go all the way through to the back of my crochet project. Then I will yarn over and pull up a loop. We're not going to do anything with that loop just yet. I'm going to go to my next vertical post, and you can kind of see how there's this other strand in the back here. I'm going to go in between those 2 strands and punch out the back. Then yarn over, pull up a loop. Again, through the fabric to the right of that vertical post, yarn over, pull up a loop. And I'm going to do that in all the stitches until I get to the end of the row. This last one I'll go through right here, yarn over, pull up a loop. Again, I've got 8 stitches on my hook, and we'll work the return pass the same as we did before. So we yarn over, pull through 1 loop, and then the rest of the way back across, we yarn over and pull through 2 loops. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and we'll keep repeating that until we're left with just 1 loop on our hook. So that second row, if we repeat that a bunch of times, we will get a project that looks like this. Here's the front, here's the back. The back has kind of a purl stitch. The front has that nice knit look to it. I used a very small hook for this, so it's got a bit of curl, and I also finished off the edge of the project, which I didn't show here. But hopefully this gets you excited to try Tunisian crochet, and I've got some videos you can check out if you want to deep dive into Tunisian crochet techniques. I hope you enjoyed these 4 ideas and have fun incorporating them into your own crochet projects. Do you have a favorite of the 4 methods I showed in the video? I'd love to hear in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely day and happy crafting.